Welcome to Microdose Psychedelic Insights, powered by the Conscious Fund. This is the Psychedelic Insider Series, fireside chats with industry leaders in the psychedelic space.
Let's continue.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you, Jason. How are you?
All right. I'm doing well. All right. So I'm with Robin Arnott of Entheo Digital, and that's you. And we're just going to have a little introductory chat and get to know you and your company.
Great. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah. So I'll admit Entheo is new to me. So, and maybe to listeners and readers. So let's start with a introduction.
Well, sure. I'd be surprised if Entheo wasn't new to you because it's a new company.
Right.
Entheo is new to you and new to many of your listeners and readers, I'm sure. Some of you may have heard of our product, which is SoundSelf. So Entheo was founded to distribute digital therapeutics for psychedelic therapy, specifically immersive experiential digital experiences to be used as tools by psychedelic therapists at all parts of their experience, but especially for helping newcomers to psychedelic medicine prepare for their first medicine journey and to help them integrate. So SoundSelf is a product that's been in development for many, many years. It was originally developed as a psychedelic tool to give people access to psychedelic states of consciousness, specifically unitive states of consciousness. And it does this with a really unique vocal feedback loop. So the experience has you chanting, toning through the whole time. And meanwhile, there's dynamic music and visualizations that are responding to everything you're doing with your voice. And we're seeing people enter, have a unitive state of consciousness within about 10 to 15 minutes. So their default mode network just stops. We see similar brainwave patterns as you expect to see in a person who is in a deep psychedelic experience, like a heroic psilocybin dose, or someone who has been studying meditation for years and years and years and is in a deep meditation state. So we're seeing those characteristic gamma bursts. We're seeing a decrease in activity in the default mode network. We're seeing a decrease in alpha activity, the back of the brain. These are all psychedelic brainwave signatures.
Right.
Would be the way I put that.
Okay. So yeah, that's great. With the means of preparing people for potential therapeutic sessions in the future, getting them acclimatized.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a few main uses. The first and most obvious is, let's say you're going in for your very first psychedelic journey, and you are understandably anxious to begin psychedelic work, and I think that just shows a respect for the medicine, that you're having maybe a little bit of ego resistance. Being able to have a digital experience that can give you a taste of a unitive state of consciousness, and a taste of that full surrender that the psychedelic is then going to drop you more deeply into, that can help relieve some of your anxiety going into the medicine and improve your relationship with the medicine, both in your first journey, which means you're more likely to have a positive outcome, but also improve your lifelong relationship with medicine from that point. For exactly that reason, you're not as likely, you're much more likely to come out of that first experience with a positive experience.
Right. Seems like a potentially very handy tool.
Yeah.
So that's SoundSelf, and is that still kind of in development phase, or it's?
Yeah, that's correct. It's interesting because it was originally developed for entertainment purposes. The original protocol was developed for entertainment purposes because there wasn't, before there was a psychedelic therapy boom as there is right now. I had this protocol that I just had a strong intuition would work. We were seeing people have a powerful emotional response to it for a very long time. And so the original question was, well, what do you do with this? distributed as an entertainment piece and treated as kind of a psychedelic or a spiritual Trojan horse into the entertainment market. So it's originally developed as an entertainment, but as the psychedelic boom has happened, we've realized that it can be far, far, far more impactful used in conjunction with medicine work and used in conjunction with a trained therapist. So we are continuing to develop the software for specifically therapeutic outcomes.
Right.
And this is great because we're actually building off literally years of development and literally years of trial and error, but now we get to integrate conversations we've had with therapists, integrate what we've learned from conducting research on it in order to produce an experience that's not only very powerful and very, let's say, moving, but also achieves therapeutic results.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like a perfect tool as companies are trying to figure out how they're going to actually implement these therapies in the real world once we start getting drug approval. So, and digital therapeutics is definitely part of it. And how do we give therapists more tools and make things more accessible for people? Accessibility is going to be an issue. Okay, so yeah, maybe just there's a lot there. Maybe just let's start with the basics. So where are you at as a company right now? You're a private company. The goal is to get SoundSelf as your first product out there.
That's right. We're a private company just founded in June of this year, and we're in the middle of our Series Seed right now. That will be wrapping up pretty soon. We've got some good momentum behind the raise. And yeah, the immediate goal is to develop SoundSelf for application in therapeutic settings and to build out our distribution network of psychedelic therapists that we're collaborating with. So you bring up accessibility. One of the really big issues that we have right now with the growth of psychedelic therapy in general is the trained therapist bottleneck. This is another place where we see digital therapeutics, an effective digital therapeutic that can actually render an altered state of consciousness. Most of them can't, because it honestly requires a very different approach to design. So most people don't know how to do that. But having a digital therapeutic that can effectively render an altered state of consciousness means that we can do a lot to also lighten the burden on therapist trainers, because there's no legal regulation currently yet on what is required to train a therapist. However, it's standard. You gotta run, like, let's say you, Jason, are a therapist in training. You got to run a person through an altered state of consciousness. And what are you going to use for that? Some people are using ketamine because that's been legal for a while, but it requires a doctor and a clinical environment. It makes it extremely expensive. And
so this could be a training tool,
right? So you can run a person through iteration after iteration after iteration as you get practice dropping a person into an altered state and holding them in presence as they come out of an altered state. And it doesn't mean we have to cut ketamine or or other controlled substances out of the training, but it does mean that when you go into that more expensive process of using a controlled substance, now you already have experience under your belt, and so you're building off of that experience rather than going in entirely fresh.
Yeah, that's a great potential use. Seems like there'll be a need. I mean, as companies start to plan out their clinics and their therapists and their therapist training, that could be a tool that people may want to use. Okay, very, very interesting. So a lot of potential uses. Do you foresee it only being on the therapist side, or would it be? I mean, there's a potential other avenue of kind of at-home use, self-therapy. People I think Mind Bloom is doing home delivery of ketamine treatments. Is that something on the patient side that you could see this getting used for?
Yes, absolutely. So we're building out a system for delivering, for handling all the operations of delivering the experience to people in their home. They could experience it in their home, self-administer it, and then have it picked up again at no extra cost.
Mhm.
The issue with some of the at-home ketamine treatments, for example, is they're just very low dose.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have a full altered state experience. You can have a little bit of that sort of light. It's not going to put you into a full psychedelic blast off, and for good reason, because again, these are controlled substances. We want to be careful with how they're used. But a digital tool can be used safely, can be safely self-administered at home. And so we're looking at home delivery as well.
Yeah. Okay. That's another potential avenue. You mentioned kind of the science, how it mimics or a psychedelic state. Has there been there's studies ongoing, or this is kind of your own in-house work? Do you plan on I believe on your website I mentioned something about getting sort of FDA approval. What about that?
We are looking at the FDA route. We haven't fully committed to that route yet. But digital therapeutics are a huge disruptor right now for for healthcare in general. So even outside of psychedelics, I think psychedelics are the prime test bed for digital therapeutics, because psychedelics really introduced the concept of experiential therapy and of experiential healing. People who've been using psychedelics for some time, or meditation even, or yoga even, understand that, the healing comes through the experience, but the medical paradigm hasn't really comprehended that yet. So this is what digital therapeutics can do. Achilles really broken ground on that with a digital experience that is to be used as a treatment for ADHD. And so we're seeing a lot of money come into digital experiences, experiential healing, as an alternative, a safer, frankly, because so many people are getting seriously injured right now for using pharmaceuticals in the way they are intended to be used.
Right.
Digital experiences are seen as a much, much, much safer, albeit novel way to address, especially psychological or psychiatric indications. But it's obviously extremely disruptive for the pharmaceutical.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess gathering the science is going to be part of your plan as well.
Yeah. So we've got 2 studies right now under our belt, one of which was conducted internally, the other of which was taken by a PhD candidate at the Georgia Institute of Technology. And Georgia Institute of Technology, I think that was correct.
Right.
But the first study was an EEG study, the one I mentioned before, where we're measuring people's brains, and we're also measuring using some of the same questionnaires that have been used on psilocybin research and found.
Right.
Really.
Expanding the scientific backup, I guess, is part of the plan as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Going to be especially important as digital therapeutics, not only our own digital therapeutic, but digital therapeutics in general make a serious bid to replace pharmaceuticals in some cases.
Yeah, I don't know if there's one. I think every single one of the top publicly traded psychedelic companies have a digital therapeutics division or one in the works. So everyone realizes the importance and the potential. And to be honest, some of them seem quite rudimentary right now. So this is the most interesting one I've heard of so far. So there's definitely a potential there.
Yeah, well, we have years and years and years of development that we're building.
So. Yeah, your background was in the gaming world, or?
Exactly correct. Yeah,
okay.
I was a experimental game designer and a sound designer for games. So I did the work on Antichamber and the Stanley Parable. And when I got the insight that led to the creation of Sound Self. That really led me on a game design path that lasted years and years and years, and brought me. I found most of my inspiration instead of amongst other game designers, amongst at the time neuroscientists and people studying consciousness. So it's a real fusion of game design and work that has been happening on the frontiers of consciousness research for the last, let's say, 12 years or so.
Right. And did I read something about you having designed some games that were meditative or that helped with some sort of consciousness seeking? Have you done that? Was that the step before this? Sorry?
Maybe the opposite. Before Sound Self, I worked on a terror experience.
Okay.
That inspired, just
Terror.
your terror. Somebody fainted playing it once.
Okay.
But actually, ironically,
that's an altered state.
Yeah. That is an altered state, and it is learning from that experience that laid the foundation for creating Sound Self.
All right. Okay. So it seems we kind of covered some of the basics. I'm not. Maybe you want to give some upcoming milestones, or like what's your projection for the next year, so people can have an idea of what to expect or to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, sure. Well, the immediate upcoming milestones for us once we complete our raise is going to be rebuilding the software for therapists. We have a version of the software that exists right now that was designed as an entertainment, and we've built that out into a therapeutic beta using audiovisual stim glasses, that's strobing lights. But we're going to be redeveloping the software with therapists and doctors in mind. That's going to take about 8 months or so, and in the meanwhile, we're looking for a really tight network of partners in the psychedelic healing space to work with, to help us build up the protocols for that. So we treat the psychedelic therapists in our network very well, more than just as clients or customers. We treat them as partners, and so that's a big part of what we're going to be focusing on in the next 8 to 12 months as well, is building out that network. And anybody who is interested in using technology to improve rapport with their clients, to improve outcomes in their work, they should definitely be reaching out to us, and we're happy to be working with them.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you. So another really major milestone we're looking at is the protocols are still being developed right now for how to for the psychedelic therapy protocols. It's still very early days, and so we see it as especially important right now to get involved in the therapy training protocols.
Yeah, I mean they're being established as we go, and as we go.
So if we can use digital therapeutics to improve outcomes now, early on in the show, then it can then we can help scale the whole industry. Yeah,
and it could help accelerate at various steps. Your tools could help things along the way. Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting stuff, Robin. Yeah. Let's. You're gonna have a lot of. There'll be a lot of interest out there, I think.
Yeah. There already is.
Okay. Good. It's. Let's check back in a few months and do this again and see where you guys are at.
Thank you very much. I'd love that. Yeah.
All right. Take care and get well.
Thanks for joining the Psychedelic Insider series, brought to you by Microdose and the Conscious Fund. Visit our website at www.microdose.buzz.